What's good, YouTube? It's your boy Vexus, the lurking legend. Y'all can just call me Vex, head cook of the Eternal Dawn, and I am so happy to be back live streaming. One of the first of the new year. Make sure you guys like, make sure you guys subscribe. We got a spicy stream if you can't tell by the layout and the thumbnail and the title. We are going to be talking about some God's Knights spice. Before we get into all of that, like I said, make sure you check all the links in the description and support all of these wonderful people here, and let's introduce them. First up, we have the historian and first mate himself. We got Kube of the Red Sea. How you doing, brother?
Hey man, listen, what's up guys? I am very pumped with this discussion. We're gonna be talking about one of the most mysterious group in One Piece, which says a lot when it comes in One Piece. So yeah, I'm excited, man.
Oh yeah, lots and lots of mysteries to unravel with this group here. Next up, we got the newest addition to the crew. We have the, what are you, the shipwright or the helmsman? Helmsman of the crew. Knack Reacts. How you doing today, brother?
Let's go. Look at chat going. We got 12 people in here. This is awesome, man. Let's get into it. Can't wait to see where we're going.
Excellent, excellent. And then last but certainly not least, we have the heart and soul of the entire One Piece community, as far as I'm concerned, but definitely of the Eternal Dawn crew, the navigator herself. We have 3 Day Trip.
Hey guys, I am the navigator. I'm on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, Discords, a little bit of everywhere. And I got a lot of thoughts on the God Knights, so let's go.
Excellent, excellent. Before we get too into the discussion on the God's Knights specifically, I did want to mention this is not necessarily a full chapter discussion about 1136. We will be talking about that tomorrow and releasing a video on this channel, so make sure that you are subscribed and that you guys all check that out. We'll go like basically panel by panel talking about the cover story and the whole first half of the chapter. Today we are just talking about the God's Knights, which will have some 1136 discussion obviously, but that's gonna be the main focus here because there's so much greatness going on in One Piece right now. We had to break it up into a stream and a video for you guys. But yeah, who who wants to start talking? Like, do we have anything? We have some extra spicy news from this chapter, but who would like to take the wheel here for a second?
I mean, I think we
should talk about what we all know, like 100%. So I think that's where we should begin from. Like, we know they are the enforcement arm of the Celestial Dragons. They're this mysterious faction that really got introduced, what, less than 100 chapters ago. They're kind of, above the Marines in every sense. We see Sakazuki, sorry. Can't even touch them in terms of authority. Other than that, I mean, we don't have much confirmed.
I mean, we also know something. They're the one who execute any decision made on the Celestial Dragon as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I say we talk about the W I got from the video, that they were there to recruit Loki.
Hell yeah.
Congrats.
Oh man, yeah, if you guys haven't checked it out, 3 Day did a wonderful script and recording for a short that was put out on this channel. Go check it out because yeah, she is, I think that's not even your first W of 2025 maybe, but if it is, first of many, because you've been cooking lately for sure.
Yeah, it was fantastic. Because I mean, we can get into that too, because we got a massive, basically the biggest reveal of the God Knight so far in the newest character.
Oh yeah, bro, that is actually like probably my biggest, like I'll talk more about it tomorrow as far as the full chapter, but like that's probably the spiciest thing from the most recent chapter for me is just like Gunko's design, which I don't know, I'm not sure if that's gonna be the actual name we get. The translations have been right and they have been wrong recently with like the Shaggy and Mosa stuff, so
Right.
I don't know.
We don't know what's what sometimes till we get his translations.
Nick, I see you in chat talking about how Cube's the short one and you're the tall one. and yeah. And
Small victories, man.
Straw Hat Koofy shouting out the layout as well. Thank you. I cooked this up. And I had no idea what to do for a layout, so I was like, this'll be funny, but I'm glad y'all like it. But
oh my god, I'm just noticing it. That's awesome. That's crazy.
these silhouettes are kind of all we really have to go off of for some of the God's Knights, right? Like we could assume there's at least 9 of them, and we know that one of them is like Shiv or Stabs or Banks or like potentially Shanks himself, right? Like, and now we have Gunko is like the soft confirmed name. But then there's these guys we just have silhouettes of, and I'm gonna be the first to say it. I'm not the first to say it, but I'm gonna be the first to say it on this stream. That guy on the far left, in between like a Kube and neck, that looks like a Foxy clone, right? Like,
Oh my god.
oh my goodness.
Yeah, Mr. Bushido down in chat. I don't think they're gonna have a Fishman. I think there's this deep-seated resentment between that. But it's not me. I'm just saying this group.
And then listen,
Oh
your
my
head
goodness.
is right now. Your head is on the God side in the overlay, so he isn't 100% wrong.
I am the tall one.
Oh my
But
goodness.
Have y'all heard that she might actually be a cyborg, and that's a cybernetic eye, and that's
Oh,
why it's.
Dude, that's so cool.
And I put a picture in the chat, and also that she is dressed. The reason she's dressed like that is because she's a long leg tribe member. That's how they dress, and those.
It's it.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm also gonna jump in on the dress. Did you also see the similarities of her attire with Shiryu, King, and some of the employees of Impel Down?
Oh yeah, like
Exactly.
The hat,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
coat, yeah, the button, the style button is quite similar.
I know.
I actually have heard this thrown around, and I dismissed the thought of it because I just thought it was a perspective thing. But you shared this picture here. This is very, very interesting.
Check out the sleeves. It looks like she may be. This is crazy, but hybrid long arm and long leg. Her sleeves are way too long, and they look like it would belong to a long arm tribe.
I
can see
actually
it.
thought it was creepy enough. I thought it looked like the toy soldier at first, but then I got caribou vibes with the sleeves.
I don't know. I think she has a fire design one way or the other, but yeah, the first thing I thought was Impel Down, like the officers, like Shiryu specifically, and the hat kind of reminded me, and I had to go look back, but in the God Valley flashback, when young, like I'm assuming Prime Garling was shown, and then there was like that little kid with the hat who's like, this trophy will
Yes.
belong to the Manmeyer family. I thought about hats, but I went and looked, and the hat does look distinctly different. Although that was like 38 years ago, so maybe you get a different fashion sense over the decades. But I know Straw Hat Lucas, the captain of the Eternal Dawn, has been riding the agenda that the Manmeyer family is going to be important and show up, and that before we got Gunko's full design reveal, he was pretty positive that she was of the Manmeyer family, and he wanted us to shout that out.
Yeah, no, that was a great call. Yeah, instantly though, I love what everybody's saying, but I feel like there's going to be something to this robot eye you first mentioned. More than
That's
anything.
sick. Yeah, that is crazy.
Yeah.
I think like it's, because we did have that image floating around when we first got the shot from last chapter when she used the bandages of this character design Oda had back in Thriller Bark that he never ended up using. And it made me think about the zombie generals and how they were a created force that was used as the elites. And with the robot legs and cybernetic, that's really interesting.
Yes, and that was from, I was trying to remember who did that, from a member of Parvision's server. I was going to shout him out, but I will when I find it.
I think another thing that I'm thinking is like we still don't know how necessarily a devil fruit gets input into an item, like an inanimate object, like what would explain like lasso or Funkfried, right, which we've seen before. We did figure out that that's the workings of Vegapunk, but we didn't get anything from that all egghead long. So what if these God's Knights might be all decked out in like several items that all contain separate devil fruit powers?
Cybernetic stuff going on, and yeah,
because
Vegapunk's a part of it.
that would be sick. Because like think about it, like there was a theory for a while with Blackbeard is that he doesn't actually have 2 fruit powers. He put it in like a ring or something like that. But we've only seen it with Zoans up until this point. But a lot of people were mentioning that the possibility that this power could come from like an ancient Zoan, and we see it coming from like one of her hands, which was like a big point people were making with the Blackbeard thing, is like he only uses a devil fruit with this hand, so maybe it's one of the rings that's on that finger or something. So I don't know, it's an old theory from like back when I first got caught up, but I think it's really interesting. I don't even remember. This was years ago. I've slept since then, you know.
It's been I've been hearing it for I think much longer than I even joined the community, that he might have an item instead that gives him those powers.
Yeah, like Willa Dreams is saying in the chat, like some Ancient Kingdom raid suits or something like equivalent to that. That'd be sick. That'd be so cool.
I really like the idea of that too, because the 38-year-old shot we got of the God's Knights, they were all very like, you know, traditional looking in their attire and stuff. And now maybe after the breakthroughs Vegapunk has had, the God's Knights are actually equipped with way more than they were. And that's why Dragon is so prepared for the final war. Like he's not going to engage till they do.
And I won't lie, especially then, you know, with the recent chapter, what they say to Loki, another W for, you know, another fire for W for 3-day, for calling that point. It does push, you know, so I've been saying that, you know, because of how Akainu has no respect for the Gorosei, talks back to them, but cannot even make a move on, you know, the Celestial Dragon who actually wear those astronaut suits. I was saying that what if Celestial Dragons are associated to Celestial Dragon? They're saints, but they're like from a lesser branch of the Celestial Dragons, meaning, you know, they're less godlike in a way. It kind of makes me think that maybe, you know, and Garling now becoming a Gorosei kind of makes me think of, you know, what if there's a discrepancy between Gorosei and God's Knight with the Celestial Dragon, like Mjosgard, or, you know, Saint Carlos, and his father Roswald. Because it, you know, I mean, why recruit someone who's like from a different race, different island that oppose them? It's definitely not based off blood. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe like, I don't know, because I've seen a few people, like I believe it was a friend of the channel, SSJ8 Cody, who was in the chat earlier, Major Goat, who was saying that maybe potentially they had gathered a member from each race of the world, and like we had already said, I don't know about Fishman or many other races, but the fact that they're going for a giant is really curious to me. And I think that it could just be that maybe like a really powerful devil fruit might be like just like the qualifier there, and it doesn't matter if he's human or giant or what. So we still don't know what's going on with his devil fruit power, and that might lead into it. And they could be, that could have also been, I don't know, there's a ton that we'll definitely make sure to get into more of the nitty gritty on some of that stuff in tomorrow's discussion, so keep an eye out for that video when it drops. But for the God's Knight specifically, I think that it's so bizarre to me that they would be introduced, and we believe that they're all celestial dragons, and then they're recruiting somebody who's not a celestial dragon.
Yeah.
Right.
I just think they couldn't afford for Luffy to join with Loki. They couldn't afford that. They're either going to recruit him or kill him. I think that's the plan. And I don't know about Gunko and Shanks look-alike being, I don't know. I kind of think of him as like Lucci, how he was trained growing up, because the translation for Gunko in Japanese is military child, and there's another with war drums. Let me see.
Drums is spicy, actually.
Yeah.
And the one in Old Norse means battle warrior. Gunko in Old Norse.
Yeah.
So they may have been, they're like maybe child soldiers that, and Vegapunk worked on them. There might have been something wrong with them.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And I do like the connection to science, because I've been, we've been talking about, specifically me and Nak, about the definitely Shanks has a hand on, when he became a Yonko 6 years ago, it's most likely, Loki's downfall. It seems to be the case. But I find it's very interesting. It seems that what happened with Loki, right, does most likely with them, does has to connect to, I don't think it's just by coincidence that he kills the actual benevolent king before, that Loki that usurped his position. We've seen that many times. Fishman Island, Dressrosa, Alabasta, Wano, where it seems that the people who became the new rulers did it, the right way, and there was some deception. You know what I mean? And I find it very interesting that around the same time that Garland becomes a Gorosei, in the next arc, you get Banks and Gonko. So I'm wondering if it's been something that they've been trying to do for some time, but they can only take action because now Garling might have been, one of among the 5 of them who wants it. Like, it's a bit like in Surgeons, a surgeon, when he finally resident in medicine, does his first solo procedure, his first mission, Kind of makes you think that what if Garling is also, sending the God's Knight for a plan they've been preparing.
Well, it opened up a position in the God Knights, at least. Anyway,
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
I think this might be like, because for them to just be able to show up wherever, whenever, cue the Shakira, meme, but like they could just literally just like teleport into here at any point in time. Why wouldn't they have maybe done it before? So yeah, the motives behind it is really interesting, and I'm wondering if it could be potentially something more dubious. And that like maybe now that Garling is not just acting supreme commander, but like one of the actual Gorosei proper, that maybe they're just like, okay, well, we have to start eliminating the biggest threats, and we can assume that Straw Hat was probably going towards Elbaf. Shanks was just at Elbaf, if not still there, but that's a whole different topic for in a minute in the stream. But then we also have Loki, who has a special bounty, the only special bounty that we've seen outside of Sanji's, which was an alive only. And so it's like, what if they're just like, okay, well, now's the time to strike, and what if we just lure him in under the false pretenses of like, yo, join us, so that he will help us take out the other 2, and then we stab him in the back. But they have no actual intention of giving him that position or those powers. If there is like some sort of yokai power or like whatever the God's Knights get as their sign-on bonus, I don't think they actually intend on giving that to Loki.
Actually,
do we still
I don't think
that
so either.
that's who was on the other side of the Den when Loki
No.
was speaking?
No.
I don't think so either.
I don't think we've seen that person yet.
yeah.
No.
So what Vex is saying, it kind of makes you think of, and this is based off real life, royals from the UK and France, they would do that. What if making you a God's Knight makes you basically, or when there's some people who have the right to the throne, sometimes when you want the right one, the people you don't want to, but they still have a claim, they get knighted. Once you become a knight, you cannot also become king of your kingdom. It's basically, you could either serve your kingdom military wise, or you can serve as a king. You can't be both. Like,
That kind of seems like a Kube situation.
Like, also, one of the part of the thing is they don't want the giants to rule over Elbaf, and the best way for them as well is for Loki is not only it will enable them to take over Elbaf, but also removes the potential heir, Loki. If you only, you know what I mean? Because until now, we know that Tim and Harden are siblings, but it could be Sake's siblings. You know what I mean? They're not like blood related. What if Loki is the sole heir? It enables them to have, they'll have, he might have the only best claim to the reign if it finds out that he didn't actually unalived his father. So it could be a way of, making sure that they can control who becomes the next ruler.
That would be interesting as well, because we all predict a civil war in Elbaf, and that would be a good, well, not a good, but like a clear premise for people to start conflict, is to fight over the next ruler.
Something that I think is also pretty interesting, and Kube has spoken about it with me, like in VCs over the past like 2 years, like almost ad nauseum, but like all of the parallels that Oda has made to like French society, as well as like and history and whatnot, as well as several other things. But I know that in the old like in like the golden age of piracy in the real world, there were people who were conscripted into like the French Navy as privateers, and if they were not like born of nobility, they could never actually reach the rank of officer in the French Navy. So there were specific like maybe this is like because he's not of celestial blood, he will never be able to actually attain like a seat as a Gorosei, and maybe like the God's Knights are just where they put like, you know, people who don't fit the actual like, I don't know, I'm assuming that the Gorosei and probably most of the God's Knights are at least are celestial dragons themselves, so we don't see them follow the same convention like wearing the helmets and things like that. But there's also the possibility that they're like maybe half bloods or something, like Bonnie perhaps. And like, is there a possibility that maybe Loki is part celestial dragon, and that might be also into why he was called the Accursed Prince? I don't know, like is that crazy, or is there like a possibility of that?
No. Cool. Well, that's why like our captain's idea of the Manmare family so much, because he actually caught an Easter egg in the live action where the Manmare family seems to be a group of merchants at that point. So if it's like you build up enough status or wealth in this world, like, you know, we won't make you a celestial dragon, but like there's other ways you can work for us. Yeah, and we see York like chomping at the bit to attain the seat as a celestial dragon as well. So you don't need to necessarily be of celestial blood to be accepted into their society, I guess.
Yeah, you don't
it's
need
kind
to
of
be...
like Kuma and his mom. Maybe that happened to Loki's mother too, that he's not actually Harold's real son.
Oh wow, that could be.
And Harold adopted him like Kuma did Bonnie.
I mean, I've been saying it for a while, but it could be a big case that, you know how they made that whole lore about the long arm tribes, the long leg tribes feuding for 1,000 years, the Shandorians and the Skypians. You know, there's constant this turmoil of two sides on the same nation. I said, what if before in one kingdom there were two sides that came from there, two groups who came from one group of people, celestial dragons and the D clan. Thus, you know, why they keep repeating the gods natural enemy are the D clans. So like in that case, what if it's like a bit like homing, you know? The D clans are the people from that nation, that kingdom, that refused and serve. They would rather be free and be part of the people. So with that logic, you know, you could still retrace, you know, like if they had a registry from back of the ancient kingdom time, they might have they might know like people who are, we know, even though they never make the pledge, they have some importance, you know what I mean? Like blood or lineage or, you know, secrets or whatsoever. And we want them to be finally back with us, you know? So instead of, you know, convincing them, it's deception, you know, those kind of stuff.
It's also beneficial to the dragons to incorporate, as dark as it gets, people outside the 20 families, because you can only breed so many times with 20 families.
Yeah, and then you get homies looking like Charlos.
Exactly right. They're no good for defending the world.
Oh my goodness.
This could explain why, if there's two branches in the Celestial Dragon, this could explain why in God's Valley we saw Garling and some of the other holy knights not having the regular Celestial Dragon drip, but there were also Celestial Dragon with them with that drip. Like, why is this actually like the side of the founding 20s, first 20s, and then there's the other ones who are part of the second wave, you know?
Well, back when Mother Caramel was around, back when Loki was born, was when the Celestial Dragons and world government were trying to aggressively assimilate the giants into their ranks. And with Mother Caramel around at that time, I wonder if something like that didn't happen, like with Kuma's mother and Bonnie, and what happened with her, with Bonnie's mother.
Ginny.
I think
You could say her name.
yeah, I think like that's it wouldn't be the first time that Oda has introduced a concept, you know, and then like kind of had several other reiterations of it in the story. So I could see that there is potentially there's no really great way to word it, but like people who are part celestial dragon, and I know Knack was about to bring it up, but yeah, Kush Daddy in the chat, that's a goat right there, said what if Dragon had also fallen in love with a God's Knight, because he was the first, like one of the first people in the story to actually drop the title, right, God's Knight. He said that's when the real battle begins, is when they mobilize. So like could Luffy,
he knows a lot about them, man.
yeah, could Luffy be like a quarter or like a half celestial dragon maybe?
We've touched on this before, like I think actually a few times, me and Cube and other people in the VC over on the TED Discord, but it would be like a crazy coalition of families and bloodlines to all come down to Luffy then being the savior of the it'd be wild. So I don't discount it at all.
So for me, this is how I started thinking about the D clans in Celestial Dragon, just sharing a lineage from 800, 900 years ago. Same group of people, you know, the two different clans, and Shandorian and Skypians, you know, from one area fighting over that same land, and something happened. Because it's quite weird. Look at every Straw Hats when they're introduced when they're younger. If you actually look at Luffy, he's quite similar to traits that we see only from noble kids. And almost like Celestial Dragon, like he wants what he wants. He does have a snotty attitude. He has to be learned constantly, basic human decency. And it's like I'm wondering if, you know, he's trying to connect that, you know, that side of it is like in his nature. He has something that Celestial Dragon have it, except they are like it's on steroids with them, you know, like they really take what they want.
What's really
so
crazy.
Look at Luffy at his start, that he does seem to act in a mild way of how we see with Celestial Dragons when he's younger.
So basically you're saying Luffy is Charlos coded.
No way.
No, you all heard it. You heard him say it. Run
That's
the tape
what's
back.
going on when you punch and family fight. You know, they don't get along sometimes.
You know, so, yeah, but that could be an interesting twist, especially since we had that one comment of Vegapunk that did not make sense of Nika. He referred to him as a white warrior, and the only people we've seen who like their entire thing is to be always dressed in white is Celestial Dragons. Like what if the first the first Nika might have been among the Celestial Dragons? You know, he was the one who. No, I'm not down with that.
I got a question for you guys. Do you think they serve the Gorosei, or do you think they're direct servants of Imu?
I think, yeah, it's probably like a lateral step in authority to the Gorosei. So I would put them probably both on the top shelf. Whereas the Gorosei are seen as like the face. Think of it like Cypher Pole 0 versus the rest of the Cypher Pole. Because nobody knows Cypher Pole 9 is a thing, and if you know, your life is in danger because you're not supposed to. But everybody knows Cypher Pole 0 is a thing. That's the whole public entity that is supposed to serve the Celestial Dragons. Now we come to find out that there is a whole level above that, which is the God's Knights, which are more like Cypher Pole 9 in that I'm assuming the public doesn't know about them because we've only heard Dragon and Akainu bring them up, but everybody knows what the Gorosei, you know.
Right. It's weird that they're so mysterious like that.
So
yeah, and like when Garling becomes a Gorosei member, they had no idea, and he's like, I got orders.
Yeah.
So it suggested to me that Imu delivers orders to these people just as frequently, or maybe only. You know what I mean?
So for me, when it comes to, you know, I have talked about some, you know, Louis XIV inspiration, the Sun King, and specifically the Sun King for a while, if it's Imu, Louis XIV, hid his identity from the nobles until he actually like revealed himself as being the ruler of France. I've always wondered, because the way they talk about Marijoa and the Orochi backstory is very similar to Louis XIV. Imagine the reason why they created the castle of Pangaea Castle for Louis XIV is because of a storyline almost similar as Orochi being hunted down because they want, you know, for because of propaganda, and they were trying to get rid of a certain royal family. It kind of makes you think of, I think the God side know of Emu and the Gorosei know of Emu, but I'm wondering because they keep also, if you remember, every time to claim the world government, they say it was founded by the 20 kings. It was founded like the 20 kings. Like this lie or this information is the most important one. You know what I mean? This solidifies that it's legit. Like they're actually the rulers of the world. I've always wondered the reason why Emu is hidden is that the only people who can actually stop Emu if they know of his existence, like worldwide, could be the 20 kings. Like what if certain families are not privy of Emu? That could explain why Emu is unknown to, Like I'm not saying all of them, but I like to say that there are 5 not good ones, but I'd say good intentions Celestial Dragon family that we haven't been introduced. Because we have to come to account that not all of them, because of Homing and Mjosgard, not all of them are monsters. What would happen if they found out that Emu Nerona is actually ruling? So we can't let that person. So I've wondered if all the Celestial Dragons that are aware, most likely the Gods Knights and the Gorosei are aware of Emu, but are all of them? That could be the reason why Emu's identity is such a secret.
Yeah.
Yeah, food for thought.
I don't think we're gonna get any redemption though.
Oh yeah, definitely not, dude. Some of them are, yeah. I mean, the only way it's possible is it's some of them that are newly introduced, never had anything, and then maybe why not?
Yeah, well, we might get some understanding of the situation. You know what I'm saying? We get a better contextual reference of what actually happened back then.
Yeah, I think I'm like really interested, like, so to bring us back to like, I guess like something that's more adjacent to the chapter here that we just got. So we now have Gunko's basically their full design reveal, and like even their name. Probably we'll find out on Sunday if that is your name. But which one of these silhouettes do you think is Gunko? We got these nine people here. Like the like
shortest one. Oh no, sorry, not the shortest one. Not Cube. The one
it has to be mine. No, it has to be mine, dude.
Yours has like a wizard hat on though, and that's not like a like.
Yeah, because wait, let me check the overlay.
But the funny thing is, this is the only God's Knight we know. Now, like.
Yeah, so let me move Cube's face, and you guys can see. There's like a little wizard hat right here, underneath. Like. It's adorable, kind of. It reminds me of Vivi from Final Fantasy IX. Shout out if you know. But yeah, it's crazy to see these designs, and like I don't know, like I'm not one to think that like silhouettes are definitive, but they might be. But some of these designs are just like very distinct from each other, like the one that looks like Foxy. Yeah, yep. For sure.
Actually, the one on me, you said a wizard hat. You know what else it looks like? It looks like he has Karasu's mask. Oh,
like a plague doctor situation.
Yeah, the beak. Yeah, the beak as well. It can also be seen as a beak.
Yeah. So sorry. And then if I move 3 days avatar out of the way, and you guys can kind of see what this dude in the middle, like in the back, looks like. I think that's Garling. Like,
yeah, with the collar and stuff.
He has a big old popped collar, and then you really only see, as far as hair, like one main like mohawk looking thing, and Garling's hair would look like that if he was coming at you head on, you know what I mean, like staring straight at you. So I think that could be Garling maybe, which is crazy. But I mean, I'm obviously willing to be wrong. A lot of people are saying that Garling is not a part of these silhouettes because he is the Supreme Commander, but we don't know that,
Yeah, and what's interesting is, I know I've always made parallel with, Planetopia Baroque works, where there are 5 Gorosei, 9 Gods Knight, that would make the number 14, the exact same number of all the high-ranking members of Baroque works. And the ones that we got heavy on is from Mr. 0 to Mr. 5. And the other ones was loosely, which is interesting. The other ones we got loosely are exactly the number 9. So I've always wondered if, with the God's Knight, well, let's say the God side, they were part of the original Planetopia.
Oh wow.
It seems they would need
Yeah.
like, well,
Yeah.
with the way they do business, it's all shady and secret. So
Yeah.
they'd need a force that was under the direct thumb of the ruler, of course.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, I am looking. I think Goku must be the one, just the one underneath the one that Vex is on, all the way on the right. A bit
Yeah,
smaller than
like,
the rest
I
as
agree.
well.
If they had a
Yeah.
hood drawn, it would cover up the hat shape. So like if that's like, and then
Yeah,
the one I think dead center and in the middle, right in front of 3-Day, slightly to the left, that's probably like the Shanks clone or twin or Shanks himself,
Banks. Yeah, Banks.
right? Stabs, Shiv, whatever you want to call it. I think what's really interesting too is another distinct design here is if we move my avatar out of the way. This guy looks like he's wearing a dog mask or something, like, or some kind of like.
That's a dog.
That's
That's
a
a mink right there.
that's a full, like, he's got some dog in him. Like, I don't know, like,
As
but
soon
that
as I seen that silhouette, I was like, "Oh my god, is that like?"
yeah,
What?
that's crazy, right? So I don't know. So some very distinct designs, and do we think that Oda's gonna stick to these, like, or are we thinking based off of Gonko's reveal that this was just some random stuff, you know?
I got my doubts. He's going to be too picky about making a matchup, but he will. I think it'll be closer because his more recent silhouettes have been a lot more on point,
Yeah.
detail wise.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Actually,
I'm laughing at some of the people in the chat.
Chat is unhinged, man.
Oh, man.
the one that I'm on actually, because I'm looking at the week of the God's Night, he looks like the God's Night that had the same skull mask as well. Remember, there was one that had the same skull mask as Rodo at God Valley. He was
He had a
next to the
yeah, he had a bovine mask
yeah.
on.
Maybe
Oh,
that what we think is a wizard hat or Kurosu's mask. What if it's that one?
We just
Try
took
it,
Cube's
Kufi.
breath away, ladies and gentlemen.
Strayat Kufi said
Yeah.
that the dog mask could be Garp's brother, which would be insane. Like,
Carp.
Oh, that's
Basically.
rocks.
Yeah, that's rocks.
okay. You guys heard it here first.
Oh.
That's how he got erased, is he got assimilated into the no, but like that's the crazy thing is
True.
when we have these types of figures introduced, especially there's like at least 9 of them. There could be 100 for all we know. Oda could literally pull out whatever he wants because there's so much. They're enigmatic, and with Oda leaving it open-ended and not giving us any like major absolutes, he could literally do whatever he wants. They could all be clones of like prolific figures or something like that. And maybe they don't want Loki himself.
Right.
They just want it like his genetics so they can clone him to be part celestial or something. I don't know, like this could be crazy.
And there's an arc where nothing really happens, but there is the
Bruh.
zombie generals in that arc, and they were a created force that worked for the captain above all the rest, even above the crewmates.
Yeah, post in this lobby arc. Yeah,
Wild.
that's a good call. That's a
No,
good
no,
call.
I think it was called oh god,
It's
What was it again?
pre-Sabaody. Like, oh my goodness.
Oh, Thriller Bark. That's it. Thriller Bark.
Sounds
yeah.
like peak, but I think it's
No, but for real.
Actually,
The zombie generals are a man-made force.
yeah,
And
man-made.
they're controlled.
we
by the
got there.
captain. We got there.
Yeah.
I'm okay,
Consider-
ladies and gentlemen.
They're like it was a trick question.
But I think that's a great
What do you
parallel, and I was wanting to cook on this, but I will not ever be the first person in a stream ever again to bring up Thriller Bark because I'll never hear the end of it from Cube. But I did not bring this. I did not bring Thriller Bark up, but I will, in
It's
fact,
coming up.
add.
You cannot stop it.
And it
said-
is coming up.
The zombie generals and Moria's power in general with the Kage no Mi, it's actually like I've heard several individuals like Daksake, absolute goat. Make sure you guys go check him out. He just hit 80k. Congrats to that. But he has he and I have spoken for hours about like the parallels that Imu potentially has with their power set to Moria. And I think that that's a really, really great parallel potentially, is the zombie generals, which are tireless, deathless, powerful creatures that may have even been borrowing the shape of prolific figures throughout history.
Yeah, that's
We
what I
had
was thinking.
Captain John, but that's not actually Captain John. There's a different entity residing within just that vessel, right? So like this isn't actually Shanks, possibly. You know what I mean?
That's exactly where my mind was going with it. It's like, you know, they get this maybe lineage factor of these figures and they make a fighter out of it.
Yeah, and
it's
we
like a mindless
see,
drone kind of, you know, subordinate.
yeah, and like with the eyes of Gunko, which we saw in this most recent chapter, 1136, are two separate eyes. When's the last time we saw something kind of like that? Maybe not two separate eyes, but having unique and distinct eyes is something that we have witnessed of the Seraphim, which are clones. They are literally clones. So like seeing like S Hawk and S Snake's eyes, this could be potentially like that type of situation. We know that now they have access to Lunarian genetics, which maybe these, it's hard to tell in panels when it's black and white, but what if this is a Lunarian version of Shanks? What if this is like S Hanks, you know? Like,
No, for real though. Like, the created force makes a lot of sense to me, especially with all the talk of lineage factor, the Pacifista, and Saturn acting like the Pacifista wasn't even a big breakthrough. I wouldn't be surprised if they've been able to modify, you know, their own soldiers for millennia, hundreds of years.
Yeah, and also I
That's
won't
awesome.
lie. There's something that was quite interesting with Gonko's abilities. It kind of made me think a bit of how it was designed, how it was shown visually, similar to what we saw with Diamante from the Flamingo Pirates doing, with his flag ability.
What do you mean?
He
Diamante?
warped Diamante's ability. You know, he could turn into a flag, but there's a one point where he has a form where he actually himself becomes a flag, and the way her arms moves, like in an arrow type of thing, is quite similar to how Diamante did a move at one point in the Colosseum.
Well, it's great you brought that up. That arrow reminded me of like tapping into Emu's power, because we've seen that arrow type attack when Emu went at Sabo.
We also saw that, which took out Little Oars Jr. in Marineford, used by Gecko Moria.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ooh, spicy.
Yes,
No.
like I said, we see like
it's all coming together. Did we just figure this out?
Yeah, like that's why I was thinking it could be potentially that they're all utilizing several devil fruit powers through like the technology, like something Funk Freed or Lasso adjacent, or like it could still be the yokai, you know, situation. We had talked several chapter discussions ago about, we think that these individuals are given like a yokai type power from Emu, which would again be like a Moria parallel if Emu had like bestowed these powers upon to them, just like putting the shadow into the zombies. So either which way, I'm gonna be pretty happy. Like, this is gas.
There's a lot of people that come up with the idea that Emu does soul contracts. What if it's like, you say it's like Moria's power, but it's like a shadow, the soul's shadow contract, and that's why that arrow looked like that, because they made some sort of pact.
Yeah,
that would be pretty sick.
And they can use the same power as Emu, like with a shadow or whatever.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting.
The body will move how the shadow does, if that's what's happening.
They wanted to hunt down Moria after Marineford, was it anyway? They didn't want him to continue having that power.
Well, they told Doflamingo, and what's really interesting as well is Doflamingo is a former celestial dragon, somebody who is already aware of whatever the national treasure of Marie Joie is, or whatever. So that would be somebody who obviously that would be the first pick. If they were like, hey, we have a guy who we need you to take out, don't ask questions. You know, he already knows the answer to the question. Why would he ask? You know what I mean? So I think that kind of feeds into that as well. And like, oh man.
So I'm gonna bring up The fifth One Piece movie was Zoro-centric. Is called The Curse of the Holy Blades. And as we know, most people who wield swords, they refer to them as cursed blades, not holy blade. And Sabo made a comment that's quite interesting. He said, so the what's supposed to be heaven is actually hell, in a way. He made comments about how paradise is actually hell. We keep referring to devil fruits as devil fruits, right? What if there's a thing of another set of fruits that maybe is on Imu's side and has like the term holy because they're gods, but the same reverse. Those are where the yokai style, more really demonic
These are
powers
they call
come
them
from.
blessings or something.
Yeah,
Evil's blessing.
Blessing fruits or holy fruits or whatever,
It seems like we would have got a name for Saturn and everybody else on Egghead, though, if that was the case. I don't know. But
I
do
don't think they're
there's
fruits.
fruits.
I don't think they're fruits, but I do think it could be the same energy, just Imu has a better understanding of it and where it comes from.
And the last one I was going to say is because what we know is the ability not to swim is only on devil fruits. You know what I mean? The icing's on the pudding. You know what I mean? Like, what if those abilities don't have the same restriction because they were not given the same restriction as devil fruits? You know what I mean? Like, those could be like abilities similar to devil fruits, but with almost no limit because the sea devil or Imu, whoever it is, never cursed those abilities.
If what we saw
Devil
was
veggies.
Saturn, and Saturn died, okay, what if since he didn't complete his mission and Imu severed the contract with his shadow, that was his shadow coming out of his body, and like with Sugar and her toys, yes, they didn't age, but as soon as that shadow contract was up, his body turned to dust because he'd been alive so long.
I think it's either
I'm
that
on the same page with that.
or it's like a reverse of like what happens with Moria's powers when your shadow is taken. If you remember back in Thriller Bark, top one, whenever that guy ran out into the sunlight and was just like, oh yeah, it feels so good to be back, and he started to disintegrate into just a pile of
his shadow.
dust and bones.
Yeah.
So I think it's really interesting. If it's not the
That is a
age
great
thing,
point.
it could be like something like the shadow thing. I love that.
Yeah,
I need to
what
check
if
now if it happened at dawn or if it was happening in the dark when Saturn vaporized. That
What if
is
it's ores?
Super interesting.
we're talking Moria? Oh, sorry, I'll let you finish.
No, go mad.
Yeah, remember how the whole plan, and now I remembered it. Remember the whole plan of Moria was to create one special zombie, which was Ors, feeding him, specific type of shadows. What if the God's Knight is like, and that could have been the reason why they went after Moria. It's because he's creating something similar to that what they did to the God's Knight. What if the God's Knights are not like the zombie generals, but like Ors, a special zombie?
He was a threat.
A special brand of creation,
He
Yeah.
was a
That could be
threat to
interesting.
them. He could, if he had that fruit, devil fruit, then.
Yeah. And the fact, they reside in Marijoa, a place that has always light, and Moria made all of that, and a place that's always dark, Solar Bark.
Oh yeah.
Or he had too much information on how Emu's powers worked because
love it.
they were similar to his.
Yeah, I'm loving this. Y'all cook.
All the parallels.
This also kind of makes you think
Crazy.
like, could the potential reason for them trying to acquire Loki is specifically to just get his devil fruit, because
Well,
Loki had acquired that devil fruit through taking out King Harold. So if they take out Loki, like if you are my theory as to how devil fruit reincarnate, which I think is been recently fairly supported, but it's not confirmed at all, is that like each devil fruit has a different like shape of fruit, right, that it could reincarnate into. We saw that the Ushi no Mi model giraffe back in Eni's lobby resides within like a banana, like a red banana type of fruit. So any like banana, like if Kaku were to be tragically unalived right now, the closest red banana in proximity to his devil fruit being reincarnated would be where it would be reincarnated into. So if they're aware of the fruit and the fruit shape needed, and he were to be taken out, they would now be in possession of said fruit. That's also, I believe, is how Doflamingo probably came into possession of the Mera Mera, because he was literally at Marineford when Ace was tragically unalived. Spoilers.
Bro, if
I
he
can-
was that genius, and like we get this flashback scene of him bringing the specific fruit to Marineford to make sure he had the mirror to play with after the events of it,
I mean, he should know,
wouldn't
and
surprise me at all.
yeah, but
Like,
he like
that's the level of genius he is.
yeah, of all the people in the story, with him knowing the natural treasure of Marie-Joie, being a foremost celestial dragon and things like that, and even having a hand in like artificial devil fruit production, he would know more than anybody else, right? And we see in that same arc, Jesus Burgess has like a big old lumpy sack, and he's trying to take out whoever gets the Mera so that maybe he just had like a bunch of different fruits of different shapes within there because he wasn't aware of the actual shape or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, and this actually could go back to.
Will of Dreams is spitting something crazy in the chat about the sapphire scales and daylight, and perhaps they are engineering this virus to be a protection against daylight. So
Oof.
perhaps Emu could walk in daylight again. Man, if that's what they're actually doing by making this virus, they're trying to make it so someone can survive with these scales on them, that would be
Yeah.
crazy. Crazy
Because
plot
it-
twist.
Well, just to go back to what Vex is saying, this actually, because we've always all agreed on one thing. The classification of devil fruit don't make sense if you actually look in details. Like there's something off about it. What Vex is saying could also explain how they classify them, not on their abilities, but more like how they're grown,
Kind of fruit.
or the type of fruits, or maybe even like, because in the real life, not all fruits are grown in the same environment, There are specific fruits that grow in a specific environment. That's why, when we import, some people just cannot get certain fruits because it's so far away.
Tell me
So
about
I think that was thinking about you when I was saying that. But yeah, I think Vex, you're just over your comment. I think you're spot on. There must be something on why they're like, if they're just devil fruits, right?
Yeah.
Why make this big distinction on how he draws them? Makes very big differences, showing that
Oh, for
he is
sure.
showing different fruits. There must be something with those fruit shapes. So yeah, it
And
could be
like
that as well.
the Hito mythical model sun god Nika and the Yami Yami being, from what we know as the audience, two of the most elusive fruits in the verse. Like Devil Fruit was Blackbeard was hunting his Devil Fruit for like 20 years before he ended up finding it, and apparently the Nika fruit has been evading the world government for like 800. So that's like and they look so similar, and all of this is to say that I think the fruit shape and proximity matters, and I don't think that they actually care about Loki specifically. They care about his Devil Fruit.
Yeah.
And
this is their
I think they
opportunity
want
get
to
it.
make to recruit him anyway, because that way Emu could make a contract with him. And without somebody's permission, you can't make a contract. They need him to agree first. They can't release him yet until he agrees.
Could
yeah,
also be information. We know that
And
certain
once
seems
the
that devil
contract's
fruit.
made, he has to obey just like toys and shadows do.
oof.
And usually the stronger a power is, the more restrictions it has. Maybe Emu
That is very
can't
interesting.
come out because it is involved with the sun and shadows. Emu can't leave Marie-Joie. I don't know.
I
I
mean,
like that a lot because they introduced the concept of contracts being involved with devil fruit powers with Dressrosa,
Yes.
and we all
Yeah.
look at Dressrosa like a small scale version of what the end of the story could be.
I mean,
And
think
it's just
of,
like with Warrior Shadows, they eventually start obeying him. That maybe not at first, but after a while, they obey and don't even think about it. They change whose side they're on.
there's also, like another thing I've always said, what if Gorsei have the same limitation, rules of engagement? Because it's weird for people who are easy on the trigger. They seem constantly to wait until someone says something like they don't do it preemptively, they don't say in advance like, oh, okay, we're suspecting that. No, it's only after they got the information that they strike them, which makes me think of Dressrosa, the contract. Like
Yeah,
there are
and-
certain rules of engagement and they're limited by that.
There's also like a crazy thing that Dak loves to bring up several times in his videos and discussions is like we see from an interaction with, I believe it was Drake and Guernica, you know, like around Roof Piece and whatnot, is that he said the Cypher Pole Zero agent had said to Drake, like I envy you because he can execute his own justice.
Yep.
Whereas the Cypher Pole agents, oh yeah, there you go, one of them. I forgot all of them. I'm not even gonna lie. But the
I
thing
only
is
remember
that
his because it's such a silly name for like a menacing character.
Maha.
Oh, that's Joseph.
No, but it's really crazy to think that when you were maybe given this position like Cypher Pole Zero and like a God Knight and like a Gorosei, there are hoops you have to jump through to not only maintain your power and strength, but also just like your life. And at any given point, if you were to potentially, you know, double cross or like have ill will towards your superior or something like that, you could just be stricken down on the spot. And so you are basically effectively stripped of your will, which is the antithesis of Luffy, who wants everyone to be free. So I think that makes so much sense. And I don't think it stops with Cypher Pole Zero. I think that with God's Knight specifically, there could be an extension of that, as well as with the Gorosei. And with us seeing that Emu could just, at the flip of a switch, just unalive Saturn, like Rip Bozo, you know, like that could happen to like, where do we draw the line? Is that potential with every Celestial Dragon as well as with the Cypher Pole Zero agents? You know,
Right. There's not much further on the planet
that
you
he
can
had
get from
to-
Marijoa than Elbaf either. Or sorry, from Egghead.
Yeah.
Emu had to personally contact Garling to make the contract. That's why they talked with each other.
I would even go further than that. Think of what they said about Mihawk said in Marineford, and it's good. There's a reason why I'm bringing that up about Luffy's natural ability to rally people towards him, right? Well, what if Emu sways? You know, it's like it's rallying, but you forcefully bring someone to your side. They have no other choice, you know. And it kind of makes you think. You were talking about Guernica, right? That comment. Then he gets a phone call. Even says that he's not willing to do that, but once he got the order, he followed the order to a T that he did not even defend himself. He took the hit. Because that's what the Gorosei told him. And we've seen instances with other characters like Rob Lucci. Kaku was shocked when Rob Lucci just broke everything. And for Kaku, he knows Rob Lucci the longest from everyone on that island. And he was even shocked when he found out what Rob Lucci did, even though he agreed that we will work together until we leave the island. Meaning that Rob Lucci does try to, you know, to keep his word. So even he was shocked. And we've had another instance with someone who got a phone call from his higher ups and then changed completely on his ways, and that's Garp when in his lobby. Remember when Kuzan was making fun of him? An hour before, he did not care what Luffy did, and then an hour afterwards, he just had to throw cannonballs at him. And then Kuzan said, it was so funny when your discussion with the higher ups claiming, and Garp also in Marineford made that comment to Sengoku when he started walking to Sakazuki, to Akainu after what he did to Ace. And when Sengoku held him down, he made that weird sentence saying, hold me down, because I know what's happening, but if I keep going, I will kill Sakazuki.
From the end.
You know, it does seem to hint that if Luffy can rally people, what if Emu has an ability that's a bit like a queen bee, you know? The closer you are to the honey and to the queen bee, the more you're under their sway. Willing to die for them.
The wheel of D.
Yeah.
And I like what Kush is saying about it being a hockey thing as opposed to a devil fruit thing. I made the reference to sugar with the devil fruit, but I do think it is more than a devil fruit ability. If this is another level of hockey that you know, us, you know, normal people can't comprehend, then that would make a lot of sense.
That goes hand in hand kind of with what I was saying as well, is that like if your will is taken from you, hockey is the physical manifestation of will. Or it's not always physical, but you know what I mean? It's the manifestation of will. Definitively, that's what hockey is. So if your will is taken to you, or taken from you, then if you were to exert said hockey, it probably isn't your own. It's probably like through this contract, something that is, you know, benefited to you. And so I think that's really interesting as well. I definitely think hockey is more tied into it than devil fruit. But I think it could be a bit of both, because we do see the admirals, at least the first admirals that we see in the story, which is Sakazuki, Kuzan, and Kizaru, and all three of them having different elemental logias, there was a common theory that these people were given these devil fruits specifically by the world government. I don't believe that necessarily, but it is something to think about. And Kizaru is the most interesting case, in my opinion, as well, with recent stuff on Egghead, is he did follow these orders, but he found loopholes so that he couldn't be held to the same standard that Saturn was, maybe. And like, if we believe that, like, because that's the whole reason why Garp never wanted to enter into the admiral seat. He's like, I don't want to be their lapdog. And
Oh yeah, makes sense then.
so when you enter to an admiral position, you have no choice. You do not get your free will anymore. You have to do what you are told. And Kizaru found a way to kind of do that without actually fully doing, without succeeding. He still attempted. So like that's like a bit of a loophole. And it makes me wonder, like Kube was saying, like what's going on with Kuzan and why he's some sort of special exception here. And the thing that you brought up with the will of D is really interesting, but I think it could be also something tied to specific lineage factors, maybe.
Maybe, but think of it like this. Usually a contract has to benefit both parties. So when they make the contract, they're linked to Emu and they have permission to use their hockey.
Right.
So this is all
these
coming
powers
from
are
Emu.
So,
Yeah.
I like
actually,
that.
this actually connects with what Srida is saying and what you guys been saying about how will seems to be really, you know, connected in that regards. If it's more of a hockey thing than the foot ability, that contract. What if that's why Impel Down is built? Like, if you really look at Impel Down, is it built to keep people in prison or to make people lose their hope? And
Yeah,
remember what
so that-
Sengoku says? Yeah, and what Sengoku says to Jinbei. So you being locked up at level 6 did not change your mind, you know, like, and it kind of makes you think of what if the one thing of Emu's ability, the one kryptonite is a strong will, like Garp level of resolve, Luffy level of resolve, you know. If you have this resolve that never shatters, Kaido and Big Moms, because of their resolve, their hockey, Locke not even attempt, he knew instantly that his room would not work. You know, so resolve almost of a conqueror's, you know, without a doubt. Nothing would shatter it. But maybe that's why Impel Down exists, you know. Makes, you know, easier for Emu to, you know, to become Emu's guinea pig in this world.
Wild. And like, yeah, this all makes me wonder about what's going to be happening with Fujitora as well, since he is an obstinate, you know, admiral, like at least as far as he can be. Because like that's where I'm thinking the line is drawn, is like I don't think, like, because obviously vice admirals aren't held to that same level of accountability, because otherwise Garp wouldn't have climbed that high. But I think that we could safely say admirals for the most part are, and then we have kind of evidence, like statements by Cypherpole Zero members that would say that. So I don't know, do you think, because I know Mr. Bushido 56 just an absolute Chad posting in all of the different Discord servers, I've heard his theory where he believes that Rob Lucci will become a God's Knight and even maybe potentially a Gorosei. I don't know if I believe that, but if we do follow this kind of line of thinking that we've been talking about, in that these people are offered some sort of contract and given some sort of power, is that how Lucci and Kaku awaken their devil fruits?
Mm.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Because Kaku is such a bizarre instance of one awakening their devil fruit in such a short period of time, because we witnessed him just before time skip consuming his devil fruit, and now just post time skip having it already awakened. And I don't think that's because he was just like, oh, giraffes are cool. I think there could be something a little bit more like some sort of emu's like powers granting him these types of, like, I don't know, that's something I haven't really.
Yeah, there wasn't like fighting to the death for them to awaken and everything. I mean, they just all of a sudden was able to awaken. It was weird.
I mean, if you think about it, we know that awakening is what? Is when the body and the mind of both the user and the will inside the fruit connect, right? If
don't
someone
know.
is like,
That's what we got from Kado, but Kado
Yeah,
was
yeah.
awakened.
I mean, yeah, we didn't see. I mean, to the way Kaido talked, it seems that at one point he was awakened and lost that ability, most likely, alcoholism or him what he started doing for 20 years in Wano. But you're right, never saw the awakening, but he seems to know something about it.
He definitely knows.
What if,
something,
yeah, what if taming someone, like, if let's say the user of the fruit, right? Like imagine Kaku is under some sort of like what we're talking about, some sort of contract, right? What if like maybe Imu's will is so strong that that's how they were able to awaken so fast? They tamed them literally, physically, and mentally, and then they had that that balance with the fruit. Except instead of having free will, they're controlled completely.
Excuse me.
My God.
Oh my goodness.
I felt the hounds of Impel were coming for me.
Yeah, that's kind of what Vex was saying though. Like it was Emu kind of forced awakening upon them.
Yeah,
like if
I can see
was
that.
An agreement, tap into the power.
Yeah. Because we're gonna find out there's a reason why like people are in devil fruit. Because there's some sort of will, mind process what spanned them, and we've seen in the story happening, where it's weird, but instantly when someone eats a fruit, he seems to know basic knowledge. That's a fact. Luffy goes Gear 5 once, post fight, he remembers things that normally Luffy would not remember, like Pluton. So there's definitely like I've always said, like, what if there's a reason why those people to survive became devil fruits, but they're more susceptible to Emu in that state, and so they need a host body. But if the host body gets corrupted, what if they also get corrupted? So that could be another way to awaken, and we all know with the stuff with the third eye and everything with pudding, we know that hypnosis is a good way to awaken the third eye. Why? So it could be similar with devil fruits. But when we're talking about contract, those kind of stuff, it is a form of hypnosis in a way, just done differently.
Yeah.
Wheel of Dreams, that is not marriage.
What?
Naming contract, no free will.
Oh my God.
Wheel of Dreams.
Well, we also know that like with Conqueror's Hockey, they can basically pacify beasts. So if like there's another level to Conqueror's Hockey that can manipulate people's wills, I think that would just be the gradual next step.
I mean, I think the best analogy to what you were saying is the difference between the fight between Kid and Shanks and the fight between Roger and Whitebeard. Two strong wills, both doesn't shatter, has no doubt, doesn't push back. Sky splitting apart. One has a faltering will, the other one doesn't. Is overwhelmed by the other one's will. Kid versus Shanks. Could be similar. There might be a mental aspect to it, If there's a physical aspect to Conqueror's Hockey, what if there's a mental aspect to it as well? You succumb to the other person's will.
So with that being said, if we are assuming that these powers are, and I think this is like a really, really solid theory, but I'm absolutely willing to be wrong. But if these powers are something that is given to each of these contracted individuals by Emu, then can we safely assume every single one of the God's Knights is going to be able to use all three types of hockey, including Conquerors?
Oh Lord.
Because that's terrifying. That's actually terrifying. Like, we can assume that they might all have yokai or like devil fruit powers, maybe both, I don't know. But I don't know if they have regeneration, but we don't really see scars on Garling, do we? But he's not ageless to the same level that like Saturn was shown 200 years ago, looking the exact same that he was, the day that he tragically was unalived. Rip Bozo. But so we know that the God's Knights are at the very least not ageless, but would they have regenerative properties? Would they have Conqueror's Hockey? If they were like, that's a really, really interesting thing to think about as well, because I was anticipating the Gorosei to be the ceiling, like the absolute strongest in the world. And from what we got from Egghead, I'm not thinking that they're quite as menacing as I once thought they could be. They're still pretty scary, but what about the God's Knights? Is this like the more
They're
One thing with the Gorsei, when me and Kushtide were talking about it, earlier last week, they all seem to have an like unique ability each. Like with Top Man had the, defense, and Nazguro had the speed, and Mars had destruction capabilities, and Saturn had regeneration. Like perhaps there's a
There's
unique
levels.
trait that's passed on to each member. But
there has
all
to
of
be
them come
levels
from
too.
Emu.
That stronger
Absolutely.
contract, stronger power, maybe.
yeah, I think that it
Yeah.
what I'm thinking is that the Gorosei might be a more defensive just like power suite in
Right.
the regenerative abilities and the preservation of their life force and whatnot, whereas I think that we have an offensive squad here in the God's Knights, and they will be much more like powerful with what they're able to do, like attack wise rather than defense wise, because I don't know, we've seen with the Cypher Pole Zero, aka Aegis, and then Sword being like a different part of the Marines, like a sword and a shield kind of a setup, like a framework before. So maybe Oda's doing that again here, but I don't think that they're going to be as resilient as the Gorosei, in that maybe they don't have the regenerative abilities or the
Attack
timeless
power.
bodies, but yeah, they're able to like level an island or something like that, like, which is something we didn't quite see from the Gorosei.
One's on
Yeah.
defense, one on attack.
What makes you think of everything we're talking about is that this contract of Emu that we're talking about is not unlimited. The fact that we can see discrepancy between the God's Knights and the Gorosei. Like if it was all like it's a false god's ability, a false deity ability. It looks like it's like this almighty god ability, but there's like strong limitation. There's stuff that blocks it, Especially when I was talking the other day. If you actually look at Garling, it's weird. And 38 years ago, he looks at similar to how Shanks looked, a bit younger than when he met Luffy. But then when you see him now, he looks like he's the same. He looks like he's from the era of Garp and Sengoku. He aged massively
Right.
in 38 years compared to most people. And then you have the Mjosgard, who barely aged in 10 years. He just had a scuff. And then we saw Saturn in 200 years, did not even change one bit. There's a point of me saying Celestial Dragon Ganfall, possibly, on the fact that he looks like the same 60-year-old man 25 years for the last 25 years. But then Garling, so there must be layers to that unlimited powers, you know what I mean? And maybe with the Gorosei, they get a certain branch of it that's just a tier on top. You get some sort of like life force, but also some sort of offensive capability. But like you guys were talking about, they're different. They're layers. Not the one. Maybe their bodies can. Maybe that's why they're going after certain lineage. What if their bodies are limited to what they can take? Only a specific type of person or lineage, someone with the right lineage could, and a bit like what he was trying to do with Oris with all the zombies. Only Oris could be a special zombie because of his body.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, maybe maybe people like Loki fits that candidate. This almighty source that they can have under their control. Maybe it could go back to, what if it goes back to the powers of the ancient weapons? Abilities that are like close to what the ancient weapons have, but since they're air quote mortals a bit more than the ancient weapons, there's some drawbacks, or some limitation.
That seems like it falls under technology or magic.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm thinking now is that, like, what if the world was filled with a ton of ancient weapon like capabilities? Like we saw that the ancient kingdom is supposed to have technology far more advanced than even what we saw in Egghead from the world's smartest scientist and stuff like that, with the devil fruit helping him be smarter. So if the world used to be filled with all of these wonderful things, what if Emu attempted to assimilate all of those things into their power, and the ancient weapons are like the three things that are left? Then that just used to, like, what if everything used to be like all technology used to be like at ancient weapon levels of like dangerous or powerful, and Emu has just already consumed all of everything else, and those are the only things that remain of the ancient kingdom.
Only 3 survivors then.
Yeah, so it's like when we actually get them, like I'm not necessarily thinking that they will be quite as devastating as maybe not all 3 of them at least. Like we know what Poseidon is, and that is a power that I think would be sought after by Emu if they were like collecting, you know, all these like powers and technologies and things into their potential like treasure chest worth of like powers to hand out to people. And so that would be insane. And then whatever Pluton is, I think that also kind of fits the bill. And then with Uranus, we already have basically like a pseudo Uranus under the control of Emu. So obviously it's them trying to like bring all of these. I don't know if like they're like anything quite as special though as what 800 years worth of like, you know, fairy tales and folklore would have like made us believe, but it could just be that they were like just so well hidden, like that's all that's left, you know.
With Shirahoshi being on the bottom of the sea, I'd assume that would be a perfect place to survive. Or I know she's not the one from the past, but for that power to survive.
Yeah, and it's really interesting to think about as well is that like I don't know, I don't really buy into like the theory that Emu could be a vampire, but I know vampires are not welcome across a threshold unless like somebody invites them in, and like specifically they can't cross over a body of water, and what is surrounding Emu on both sides is a body of water. So like that's why they have to give their powers out to all of these like other I'm gonna shout out Dak again, but like pawns on like a chessboard to like have them mobilize and move out. So I think this is like it's crazy to think about, you know, how I'm assuming that the God's Knights are going to be probably the most combat oriented powerful end game faction. I think more so than Blackbeard Pirates, more so than the Gorosei themselves, more so than like even the Red Hair Pirates or like the Straw Hats. I think that these guys are the major threat, and that's kind of like where the name of the stream came from, the strongest faction in One Piece. Like if they're being introduced if they're being introduced this late into the series and like right at the start of the final saga, like these guys have to hit hard, right?
Yeah.
You know what?
I really did think of the same thing about them not being able to cross certain thresholds. I swear I did. We mind roped so hard.
So there's something you're talking about. You were talking about vampires. Obviously, we also like to talk about the whole were transformation in One Piece, like werewolf, because of Zoans. There is like you were talking about that with vampires, but with work creation, there's a concept of imprinting, being marked. And this is what what we talk about with Emu's ability, like this strong loyalty that you cannot disavow.
Yeah.
That's usually on the werewolf side. So it's quite interesting you brought up, those similarities with what we get in One Piece with vampires, but when we're talking about contrast could be similar to for werewolves in a way.
Yeah, and it also kind of fits in with the werewolf thing in that they're invoked by the light of the moon.
Yeah.
And we see with minks, that's a thing. And then there's also like Sapphire Scale was like you couldn't be directly in the light of the sun, and the moon is like reflected light from the sun, at least in our cosmology. Although Oda could do whatever the hell he wants, and it could be something completely different. The moon could be a giant lamp, and L's powering it or something. I don't know. Like he could be as wacky as he wants to be,
but
is
the One Piece.
Let's be real. But it's really interesting to think about that whole day and night parallel. We know that like what was it? I think Odin said to Toki in his writing or something, "You are the moon, unaware of the dawn," which is something I love. I absolutely love that. And it's the moon was a full main character of the story up until we got to, I believe, Water 7 Annie's lobby, because we went to a place where it's always daytime And then we were in a place that was shrouded from the sun, pretty much 24/7 in the Florian Triangle. And so like, but that was like so there's like huge tie-ins with all of that as well. So I think that we could be onto something here with the whole vampire werewolf stuff, but
More of a symbolic
yeah,
thing, though, I think.
Well,
Yeah.
No. Let me put it this way, okay? What if opening up the country is what breaks the threshold? Fishman
Oh.
Island was closed off until Roger and them opened it, right?
Mm-hmm. Well,
And now they're
I don't know if it
talking
was
about
closed off
opening up
entirely, but like it
Wano
was
if they break the
wasteland.
walls. That will let them
Right.
in to be able to take the weapons.
And then with
I mean-
Elbaf specifically, we see that like that's a nation that has only within the past 20 years, like whenever King Harold had made attempts to open it up to the world as well. So I think this is, yeah, there's like, there might be something there that's crazy. Something I did also want to shout out that I saw in the chat earlier. I think it was the Will of Dreams. It might have been Straw Hat Kufi. You guys have been cooking so much, sorry, but so, like you mentioned Cube, like the marking, and that made me think of like something somebody had already said in chat, like with Orochimaru, like the curse mark, and that like bestowed his powers upon you as well. So it's like it's something that has been done multiple times throughout anime, manga, and just within lore and mythos as well. So that's where I'm fully at with the Gods Knights. I think that their powers are something that is completely borrowed or contracted to them,
Mm-hmm. To go back to what 3D said, and you guys were talking about the Fishman Island. You guys remember what the Kuja tribe explained why they're isolated themselves all those years ago? And this could be for everything else. It's because of the actions of the Celestial Dragons. We've been in a constant war with them, hence why we're so reclusive. Something must have happened, which the people of Fishman Island had that bubble protecting them, and for a while decided to isolate themselves. The Minks on Zhao, of how they are, there's also a form of isolation. One of the reason why the borders, they must have been some sort of threat that happened all those years ago. Void Century happened since then, and they might even forgot the reasons of why they protected themselves. So Oden doesn't get it, to some extent, wants to open the borders, but Momo, because of what happened in his adventure, he understood something that changed his perspective to it, and he didn't go to Laugh Tale. So it had to be something, during that time he was with Luffy, that Oden was missing that context. So I think that could be it, like there was a specific reason why they isolated themselves. We might be getting it soon.
Yeah, that is, man, it's crazy that we're so far into the story and there's still so much left for Oda to give us, but
yeah, dude, it is amazing when you think about it.
Every chapter, there's more. Like, we're
what
gonna
kinda
have
makes you
another
think?
few-hour conversation just about the chapter
tomorrow. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what if it's Imu's abilities? Because I just think of it, like if you think about even Ohara, Clover doing all his research inside a tree. The people of Shandor, Skypiea are protected by clouds, right? Fishman Island has the sea. Wano has like stone walls all around them. Natural substance or natural habitat that block frequency.
Well,
Like,
do you think
what if,
Imu
like,
knows
what-
Skypiea then?
For
Well,
sure.
we don't know if, yeah, for sure. But what we know is when Vegapunk was doing his message, the people in Skypiea, because of how Ganfall and Wiper did not react at all, like there was no message, it didn't seem that they were hearing the message. So maybe it's like Imu might be aware of it, but Imu doesn't have that ability of, because we did get the feeling that Imu was looking at Sabo, a bit like Enel with his ability in Skypiea. Like, what if Imu might be aware of their existence, but he is blinded by their location, He can't see in it. And then you have the same thing introduced with Zhao. No one can find a Zhao unless you have a Viva card to Zhao.
Or you're a mink.
Yeah, or you're a mink. So what if there's a reason why there's a specific type of borders in those different regions? You can even say Amazon Lily, up to 30 years ago, they didn't know how to travel through the calm belt as well, because there was lack of wind, a lack of clouds,
Yeah, it was Vegapunk's creation that allowed them to
Yeah.
start
Yeah,
going through
it's
the
like
comic
30
book.
years ago.
Well, I mean,
What if it's because of
they
image
could have
abilities?
gone, they could have rode through, but it was the coating of the bottom of the ship, yeah, that let them
Yeah.
do so without being
Yeah.
attacked. But
Yeah.
I don't know, I think like it's interesting that you bring that up, because like it's like forest god, you know, sun god, and then like the four gods that are mentioned that a lot of people really like to think that Oda is going to bring back into things. Like that's literally the four things that you mentioned, I think. I don't know if we're going to get any more major development on any of that, and we'll talk about it more tomorrow, so make sure you guys again catch that video when it drops, and make sure you're subscribed. But I don't think that that's necessarily something that Oda's going to actually bring back up. Maybe, like, I'm open to it. I don't really have any major inclination. I think it's like with gods being referred to by multiple names, that is more making me think that it was just like one, like Nika's like the only thing that we will receive, and that whatever Emu is and however they are bestowing their powers to all of these gods, knights and things like that, they are like also like a lone figure. I think that we won't have like a full pantheon. I think it'll just be like a 1v1 when it comes to like the top of the mythos, you know what I mean?
Yeah, these gods knights are just like another example of Emu trying to, you know, corrupt people's minds. They call themselves celestial dragons. These are gods knights, you know what I mean? They can do no wrong.
Yeah, and if they are by some means, like if somebody is caught doing something, like if any of the Gorosei are caught doing something wrong, oh, that's them, it's not Emu. And so this is a way of keeping Emu's hands like completely clean from any of this. And so like it's kind of like a like Emu can do no wrong situation, because like, oh, I didn't, and that's kind of like funny, because that goes back into the contract, you know, side of things that we've been talking about for a really long time, is like, because these individuals are the ones that are actually, whether it's through duress or not, like doing these facilitating these orders and actions that are keeping the world at bay, or even like actively combating like people who are trying to like take down the world government, or like execute freedom in multiple nations, like the world, like the revolutionary army and stuff like that. It's not Emu who is actively attacking them, it's the gods knights, it's the Gorosei, it's the marines, it's all of these other layers of accountability. So that like, what if Emu somehow has maintained this level of power by keeping their hands clean for this long?
Right. Always a scapegoat involved.
It's an interesting
Well,
thought.
even if it's not devil fruits, we know there's what magic, and if it's black magic, they usually have an area, specific area of expertise, and it could be contracts like we were talking about.
Yeah. I just had a thought about the Gods Knights, and you know, with Loki. What if it's similar to with Dressrosa? Remember with the gladiators who pledged fealty to the king? Like, what if it's a bigger scale of Dressrosa, where instead of like they have a region, or like in Wano with the different daimos, when you pledge allegiance, that kingdom basically, in a way, is going to become part of the world government. You know, they absorb it.
Well,
In their
they can't do it themselves as part of their magic. That they can't be tainted or something. It has to be done by somebody else's hands.
Yeah, more my thought of like, what if that's how they started taking kingdoms, you know? So the system of the Gods Knight. Not back then, they just thought they were just uniting the world, but not realizing they were removing their own forces in a way. And so when what happened to Sorbet Kingdom? This also could explain why in most world government affiliated kingdoms, if you remove Dressrosa and Alabasta, all of them don't have their own defenses. They have to ask the world government or the Marines. Remember,
Right.
that's why Buggy's delivery system was created, because of those
Yeah,
nations.
it's another way of control, right? If
Yeah.
a nation becomes affiliated with you, basically, you stop raising your own armies and stuff.
Yeah.
By design.
just a thought, you know. It could be an interesting thought, you know, another way for them to assert control on everyone.
Absolutely. No, it makes sense.
Yeah, do you guys think that we're going to be getting any... I mean, I didn't think we would actually get this interaction in this chapter, so I thought we would have to wait a couple more chapters, but Oda came straight in with the heat, and I'm wondering how many more chapters before we start to get more information, because we've been doing a lot of speculating for over like an hour and a half now, I feel like, right? But like, we're gonna start getting more information, I feel like, sooner rather than later at this point. So like, over the course of just the past couple of days, my full opinion on this has changed. I was sure that we were gonna be somewhere else for like another like at least 5 or 6 chapters before we got to see these people, and then here we are getting a full panel design, and we got like the name of one of them and stuff. And I don't know, do you think that we're gonna be getting like split kind of focus like this for the next couple of chapters as well? Do you think that this is going to be something that we're getting right into, and that Elbaf is about to pick up like crazy pacing wise? Or
It's gonna be good.
I
When
love the
Luffy
idea
and
that,
Nami and Zoro get down there, it's just gonna be all sorts of crazy. It'll be split up until that moment.
It gives
Well,
me the
we've also
vibe
been
of,
waiting years for this, and Dragon said when the Gods Knights make a move, he's getting involved. Well, they're making a move.
yeah.
They're actually making a move and involving themselves in current affairs. So I'd love to see the arc that Dragon does come through.
Yeah, me too. Also, it kind of, you know what gives me the vibe this arc? Because the way you were saying, Big Vex, it gives me the vibe of Impel Down a bit. Loki basically being what is level 6. You're constantly seeing from, you know, because it's one of those arcs where you don't only see it from Luffy's side, you quickly see also what's happening with Blackbeard, what's happening with Buggy's side as well. So it also gives me this vibe. So yeah, like, I would love for Dragon and the Revs to pull up, but I think it's too much to ask. But I think we might be shocked of how much more action we'll get before we'll get some lore dump. Because I won't lie, I was not expecting to get this much action before a huge lore dump of Elbaf.
Will, don't do this.
he's gonna look west.
What did Will say? Oh, what did Will say?
He said Dragon's gonna look west, which
Turn around
Oh.
every
That-
now and then.
He will look east, I'm sure of it.
that could
Or he'll look
spell the end of the world
look
right
south.
there.
He'll look south.
Let's,
Oh, man.
let's
Top
see
of the
something
world.
big happen though in Elbaf. Like Vex, you brought up a few discussions ago, I think it was in a chapter reaction, that this could actually be one of the final frontiers for this war. And I'm here for it. Bring it on.
Can you imagine them duking it out on the top of this tree? Like, we still don't know what's up there, you know, in the heaven realm or
And like
astral
the tree
or
coming
whatever.
down in this battle. Like
Yeah, this is crazy. My other question is, like, if we see stuff going down with these 2 Gods Knights, you know, relatively soon, what are the rest of the Gods Knights doing? Are we gonna see, like in Egghead, we saw that the revolutionaries were elsewhere and dealing with the Kuma stuff, and then Kuma bopped his way over to the Red Line, climbed up, and then ended up on Egghead and stuff like that. But we cut away to several different places throughout the course of Egghead, so I wouldn't put it past Oda to have us cut away from the action here and us see potentially other Gods Knights in other places enacting other orders. Like, these people are recruiting because obviously there's an open seat. Garling just got promoted, but what if somewhere else, like in these 8 other nations that have had revolutions recently, we start to see like cutaways to these unknown kingdoms and Gods Knights handling business there? Because like when I hear the word mobilize, I think it's a full like all hands on deck kind of situation, you know what I mean?
Full scale.
yeah, this event could still be looked at something in the shadows, and maybe they do stuff like this all the time. Yeah, no, I definitely see what you're saying.
I wouldn't be shocked that in Oda fashion, maybe not next chapter, the chapter afterwards, we get a bit more next chapter than the chapter afterward. We get a time skip of 12 hours. Because it is
Bro.
way too spicy, and I feel like Oda is going to, like a
You're-
fisherman, pull back on the bait.
You're foul. If that happens, I'm blaming you now, Cube.
But, yeah, but you know what? And I have a question for you guys. So potentially now with the Gods Knights making moves, we've talked about the reps. What do you think other groups are? Do you think the other groups are going to start making moves as well? Like
I mean,
Crosskill,
they
stuff
have
like
to.
that? Without the
Yeah,
Gods
they
Knight
have
making
to.
big moves? They have to, yeah.
That's what I really honestly think could happen is Buggy probably fell ass backwards into a W against the Seraphim that were sent to Cross Guild, and with them specifically poking like at the Marines and like wanting to place bounties on even admirals and things like that, it would be, I think that would be a problem big enough for the world government to take seriously enough, and maybe even a God's Knight to like if we start seeing these summoning circles popping up all around, and like it's just been so long since we've seen Cross Guild, I kind of need to see it. But what if we get some sort of a God's Knight situation popping up on Hachinosu? And like, to me it would feel weird at first, but there's plenty of ways Oda can make it work. But like, they could have infiltrated Hachinosu at any point in the past like 800 years. If this was where Rox, who was somebody who was so taboo they had to like wipe off the face of the planet and stuff like that, like, and even potentially, since we know Joy Boy was the first pirate, where maybe he was at Hachinosu, but like, why couldn't they have just like, boom, thunder strikes, magic circle on the ground, poof, I'm here? Why couldn't they have done this at any other point in history? So I feel like there's some piece of the puzzle that we don't know, because like Loki's been here for years. They could have gotten
He was in
him.
panic mode.
Yeah, maybe they're it's
Tier
like
5.
they're pulling out all the stops, I guess, like making some risky moves.
Well, Nika did show up, and they'd
Yeah.
been trying to, keep that from happening.
Like,
So
oh,
I think they're feeling a little
crap.
pressured now.
Oh yeah, and then specifically post Egghead, or like at the end of Egghead, Emu felt Joy Boy's hockey. So
Oh yeah, time to make
And the
some stuff
Mother
happen.
Flame wasn't ready back then. Maybe they needed that to take care of the giants. I put something here in the
What if
chat.
it's... I don't know, me and Sridhar were mind roping because I actually found something very similar, but what if it's all about, you know how Emu made that comment about, let's hit the Lucia, it's closer, right? Proximity. What if, like, the further you are from Emu, the thinner that power becomes, the connection to that power. That can explain why also Marineford happened in Marineford, closest place to Marijoa. Like, one of the drawbacks of that ability is that
certain distance Sounds-
certain distance it becomes weaker. Maybe.
outside of a set.
Okay, wait. So what did you drop, Sweetie? Wait, let me check.
Oh, I was just saying that I just still think Emu's gonna attack if Loki doesn't agree to join him. I think they went there to get the one thing they wanted, was him and his devil fruit, and then they're gonna just destroy the place, or at least try to. Oda did say it was gonna get wild.
Yeah,
that would be wild.
I'm actually excited. Like, so you're saying that in the chat, the thing you posted here was that if Emu does attack, like it could be foreshadowed that the Jewel Tree Atom like does look like
It's
a
like a
mushroom
bomb.
cloud. Yeah, like a fallout of a massive attack. And it's crazy because we did get that looming impending oh no in Wano whenever Onigashima was going to be potentially dropped on the flower capital, and that didn't happen, thankfully. But then we also had that looming threat with, oh, we can't go all out right now because if the power station is taken out, then that'll level the whole. So we've had multiple island-wide destructive threats of these like massive
Yeah.
explosions. What if we're actually gonna get one here? But
Lucy is there now. If they're gonna do it, they're gonna do it now. They're gonna get the one thing they need, and then they're gonna do an all-out attack. I really think that's what's gonna happen.
what if this so or maybe you were talking about how it would look like an atomic bomb or something like that, the tree. What if the Eve tree, because the roots are deep in the sea, then you have the tree of knowledge on land, and then the Adam tree that goes up to the sky? What if together they do like the shape of a rocket or an atomic bomb?
Yeah, we got a
They've
lot of that
got what they
imagery.
want. They've
Naked
got
as well.
Vegapunk and the Mother Flame now, so I don't see what would be holding them back anymore. They want to take Luffy out really badly, and they've tried everything else.
I just thought, just to get us back to God's Knights, like, we saw satellites as a thing with Vegapunk. Do we think that potentially these God's Knights are like satellites of Emu? Like, I know that the Gorosei people had thought that for a minute, but with the unaliving of Saturn, I'm not sure about that anymore. They're just a face for the public, and they do have these like powers, but maybe, I don't know, like, I'm thinking that it would be really interesting if we see like a very interesting, with Gunko specifically, her I'm assuming it's her, but their personality is something that is very like holier than thou, and it's like, oh, that's not like how insolent, or like, and so like they have like a very, I don't know, like if we're gonna go with like a 7 deadly sins kind of like thing, it's like a very prideful way of like communicating from that first interaction we got with her like interrogating the giant, and then also here with them talking to Loki. They have like, she has a very 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 like trope-ish, I want to say, like way of communicating, and the verbiage, like the words that they're using, maybe that is specifically like Emu's pride, and they're like a manifestation of that sin to the same degree of like a satellite.
Well, then the Shanks lookalike would be like Sloth or something. He looked lazy.
He'd just be chilling. He's just a chill guy, you know.
Yeah. And that's quite interesting. Goku being pride with what she said. Then we'll get the 5 other ones.
I mean,
I can't wait to see where it develops.
There's more emotions and stuff than that, than the 7 deadly sins, so it could be.
Well, we like I was saying, is potentially Garling is just one of those silhouettes, and we don't know what he would represent, but as like a supreme commander, maybe he just like oversees these other I don't know, like, but it's really just something to think about. I mean, she could be like Wrath as well. I don't know, like like
how many are the God Knights? Are they 10, 11? I forgot already.
The silhouette is 9. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And a lot of people were believing that Garling would have been a 10th and that he wasn't pictured here, but I really do think he kind of looks like the skinny dude in the middle with the mohawk. Like that kind of just like looks like Garling to me.
Yeah. Also, I was thinking, we were talking about 7 deadly sins, but there's another thing that has some similar connection to the similar themes of the 7 deadly sins, and the 9 circles of hell of Dante's Inferno. Because if there's wrath, there's greed, there's gluttony as well, but there's also violence, fraud, treachery, so limbo as well. And in this one, they have 9 specifically. Well, deadly sins usually have 7.
Well, I was just thinking it'd be cool if there was 11, because you'd have the 7 deadly sins and the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse.
Ooh, spicy. Yeah, that's interesting.
I mean, for me, I've always felt like the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse has been hinted with the 4 Yonkos. The way they've been talking about them.
Oh yeah, and I have done a theory on that before, because the red horse would be red-haired Shanks, the white one would be Luffy, and the pale one, I can't remember how it went, but the Blackbeard would be the black horse. They're all 4 fit the descriptions.
Yeah. And the comment of what they said when first Whitebeard and Shanks met up, it's similar to what they said about, we can have 2 knights meet up together. It will be the end of us. That comment at the beginning when Whitebeard and Shanks was going to meet up. They had to stop that interaction.
It could still work with, since Luffy turned into Nika and be the white one, that might be their cue to take action. The God's Knights that's what they do during Apocalypse. They guard against the 4 horsemen.
Yeah.
That would be actually kind of crazy. I'm not gonna lie, and it fits kind of extremely well with like so many people have said that Shanks meets the tier like in Norse mythology. He was I believe he was a god of war, right, in Norse mythology.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the red horse for like red hair Shanks is specifically like that. Each of the four horsemen of the apocalypse like represent a different tragedy that can befall mankind, and red is specifically tied to war, whereas I think the black horse is death and the pale horse is pestilence, I think. And then there's famine, or like I feel like Luffy would probably be the antithesis of famine, though he wants everyone to eat, you know.
I found the small little theory, but I think you done named it all off.
But yeah, this is really interesting, and like I'm not sure what the God's Knights all might represent, but that was just kind of like the initial thought, is because I'm less inclined now post Egghead to believe that the Gorosei are like satellites, because Emu straight just like murked one of them. You know what I mean? Like and that doesn't give me the idea that they have like shared information, because Saturn was able to withhold information from Emu for 200 years about the like Emmet specifically. So it's really interesting to me to think that potentially the God's Knights could be something along that line. I'm not sure though.
I mean,
No, I think it's a great
I'll say
idea.
this. I would even say that we never seen people share their thoughts the way they do. Like they're connected to the same mind in a way, or no, like sort of connected to the same network of thought. So I could see them all being satellites of the one entity, Emu.
I'm sorry, Cody's making me laugh at chat.
Of House Neurona. Sorry.
He said Buggy is pestilence because he's sick as AF. But yeah, that's I just can't stop. I want to see how the rest of the God Knights communicate, because if they all have like very specific ways of talking, it reminds me of like we've seen countless times in anime. This like the sins like represented in character, like full factions, like the homunculus in Full Metal Alchemist, and like the Sin Archbishops and ReZero and stuff like that. So it's like it'd be really interesting to see that like something like that play out here now that we're in the final saga. I'm curious, like, and like we've barely got any interaction from these two that touch down here, or any from Garling, but yeah, this is super interesting, and like it's crazy that we've spent pretty much like almost 2 hours talking about these beings we know almost nothing about, just because One Piece is such a wide open story. But I am gonna have to actually hop off here soon. So any closing notes, anything else anyone wanted to bring up before we wrap up the stream for today?
I think it's fair to say that the God Knights are gonna be probably the strongest faction we've met up to date. There's a reason why we haven't gotten any reveals on their powers yet.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Cube.
I was just gonna say, I do hope that we're going to see another side to Planetopia that Crocodile talked about, because I do think Planetopia is something that's much older than Crocodile, and I do hope that it's through the God's Night that we'll get another iteration of this. So excited to see more of God's Knights.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really excited. What about you,
Yeah.
3-Day? Any
I'm
expectations?
excited because I know it means Dragon will move out. I want to see
Mm-hmm.
what he's going to do. There's going to be something
Mhm.
big, really big. And he would
Yep.
not take action unless it was something as big as blowing up Elbaf. Who knows? But I think that the God Knights are going to be extremely powerful. And like Vex said, they'll have the ability to attack more than defend.
I think for me, the one major takeaway, if these people are as powerful as we all think that they are, and if they're shown to be top of the verse, is that Fisher Tiger scales way above Pirate King level. That's the strongest man that's ever walked this planet. If he single-handedly invaded Marijois, where the Gods Knights are. And then I think that this also really scales up Vice Admiral Strawberry, who one-tapped Fisher Tiger over on Full Shout. So we have other Yonko level threats that we're not even focusing on from the past, but yeah, that's I don't know. There's a
Fair
little
points.
bit of like, if these guys are so strong, why weren't they utilized in other, like in Marineford or something like at other points in the story? So I'm wondering how Oda is going to continue to deliver these individuals to us.
Mm-hmm.
And join the Discord for some more power scaling with Vex.
Wild.
Get all the best takes.
Thriller Bark top one. But no, it's
seriously,
been yeah.
Come join Discord. Join the chat. We talk about this
Yeah.
stuff regularly.
Who was there on VC, on Talking Furies? Just hop in. Vex isn't always here because he participates in some hunting parties as well.
Wild.
As we all know.
Don't slander me.
Crazy.
Don't you dare. That is
Crazy.
wild.
We just went
But-
2 hours without this. You don't have to start now.
But yeah, if you guys are a fan of our antics, there's plenty more. Like we said, join the Discord, link in the description. Make sure you guys check out our captain, Straw Hat Lucas. He just had a Rambling Addiction drop about the Doctor Who Christmas special, Joy to the World. Fire, spicy. We love to see that. And next week he'll be posting a Rambling Addiction about his thoughts on Greed Island. From Hunter x Hunter, which is going to be insane. So make sure you guys check him out. He could not be here with us today, but we will be having a full discussion of the rest of the chapter tomorrow. So look forward to that. Make sure you guys are subscribed and check out the rest of the links in the description. Go subscribe to Knack Reacts and check out his free run stuff. And yeah, that's all we
Take us
got.
away, Cube.
Cube, you want to do the thing?